Greetings, Brutal Planet. It is January of 2025. January of 2025. So, what I thought I would share with y'all, I have quite a plethora of old magazines, and this one in particular was interesting to me. Guitar World from January of 2000. There's a bunch of good stuff in here. But what I'm going to do today, since it is the 25th anniversary of this friggin' magazine, it came out in the year 2000, I'm going to read this article about Korn and issues for your listening pleasure. So the article is from Guitar World, issue number 61, January of 2000. The article is written by a guy named John Picorelli. Let's get into it, shall we? A small group of gang members are huddling in the chilly Chicago afternoon, 1/2 block away from Trax Recording Studios, best known as the haunt of Ministry's Al Jorgensen. Trax is situated in a modest old brick building that blends perfectly into the post-industrial decay comprising this end of Larrabee Street. It was here that Jorgensen churned out some of the past decade's roughest, heaviest sounds, and you can see why this neighborhood might appeal to him. It looks like an easy place to cop. I think by cop they mean heroin. Inside Trax, a slew of gold and platinum records adorn the foyer wall, and two attractive black women lounge comfortably on a lobby sofa. As the members of one of this decade's roughest and heaviest rock bands file past, the women look up, scrutinizing the scene before them. "Who's that?" one of them asks. "That would be Korn," somebody answers. "Oh, look out, those boys are hard," the other woman says gravely. A few minutes later, the band guitarist James Monkey Schaefer and Brian Headwelch and vocalist Jonathan Davis are inside the studio and hooked up with individual mics and headphones. Each of the group's members holds a script. The focus of today's work, trash talking and horseplay, gradually give way to a serious sense of purpose as the engineers patch through a vocal coach from Los Angeles and prepare to roll tape. After running through the material, Korn wait quietly for the coach's input. "That's way too gay sounding," comes the response over the telephone patch. "Think dorky gay, not butt gay." Everyone bursts out laughing, and then Korn begin practicing their lines again. Not to fear, Korn isn't in the process of laying down tracks for their much-anticipated new album, Issues. They're merely doing voiceovers for South Park. The vocal coach for this session is none other than South Park co-creator Matt Stone, a die-hard Korn fan. Stone drew the band as cartoon characters, sent the drawings to the group, and enticed them to appear as featured guests on the season's premiere episode, coincidentally the series' Halloween special. Even though time was tight, Korn were on their own Family Values tour, unexpectedly filling in for DMX.
Damn right, and I'll do it again.
When South Park calls, Korn jumps, and they prove to be quick studies. Their vocal inflections are soon perfected for Cartoonland. Amazingly, Stone has somehow coaxed Korn into sounding disarmingly well, dorky gay, transforming their typically blunt street lingo into the milquetoast lexicon of the Brady Bunch. Golly, oh boy, and gosh.
Well, this sure has been a wacky night, but me and the gang learned a lot, and we hope you did too.
Before rolling tape, Stone counsels the band again, reminding them one more time of the exact mood he's going for. Think cheesy and gay. "By the way," Silveria retorts with a snicker, "thanks for having us on the cheesy and gay episode." By nightfall, as Korn takes the stage at the Allstate Arena in nearby Rosemont, every trace of the session's humor is long gone. Korn's live shows are always explosive, and tonight's concert is no exception. Showing no signs of a band that has spent the better part of a year writing and recording, Korn fire one massive salvo after another at the crowd. It, Blind, Adidas, each song builds and detonates with intensity of a nail bomb. There's nothing fancy about the presentation and precious little banter between the band and audience. Korn's shows may not hold many surprises, but they'll blow you away every time. Something is different tonight, however. Along with the familiar material, a couple of new songs are making their appearance, Beg For Me and Falling Away From Me. They belong to Korn, to be sure, but they demonstrate a stylistic fluidity which the band's earlier work only hinted at. The songs, both of which appear on Issues, are indicative of the album as a whole and of Korn. Mach 2. These are songs first and foremost, and incendiary devices only secondarily. Korn's nearly schizophrenic musical dynamic has spawned an entire genre of imitators and borrowers, and now the forefathers look ready to shed their skin. The next afternoon, Monkey and Head are hanging out backstage at the Keel Center in St. Louis, Missouri. The twin towers of modern guitar, Monkey and Head, are such a soft-spoken, courteous pair that it's a wonder how all the brutal on-stage intensity can burst forth from these cats without actually devouring them. I want to know about the brave new Korn I witnessed the previous night. But before we get to that, we need to take inventory on the old Korn and what exactly defines the genre they created. This band has been tagged everything in the book from nu metal to thrash metal to rap metal to thrash rap to pimp rock. The first tag makes sense in an extremely vague, non-creative sort of way, but the latter four, who's coming up with this nonsense? I don't know, Monkey says, but I hate it. I don't think anyone ever came up with anything good to call us. I like hip-hop, I'm a fan of it, but I don't want to be associated with it anymore. Everyone's doing it. And Limp Bizkit has it cornered. They do it well.
I did it all for the nookie. Come on.
They can carry the hip-hop metal torch. We don't want it. How did they come up with thrash metal anyway? He continues. Thrash? Remember that stuff? First there was heavy metal, then it got heavier, so it became thrash metal. And we're that? I don't fucking know. I don't care, adds Head, tiredly picking at a plate of Cajun spiced shrimp. We're probably all of it, says Monkey. Probably metal, though. That was the 70s. Where did that term even come from? I suggest that while the lyric Heavy Metal Thunder from Steppenwolf's Born to be Wild is usually credited as the source of the term, it may have also resulted from the heavy rock bands who used various metals in their names back in the 60s, Led Zeppelin, Iron Butterfly, and so on. Yeah, that's it, exclaims Monkey, then pauses. So then we're vegetable rock. Later, Davis puzzles over the same question in his dressing room, but not for long. All I know is that I'm totally playing off this nu metal bullshit, he says, jumping off the sofa to grab a studded leather jacket with matching leather trousers from his wardrobe case. He holds it up proudly. I don't think people have seen shit like this since Rob Halford. It's like, dude, if you're gonna fucking accuse me of being metal, I'm gonna be so fucking hellbent for leather metal that it hurts, he laughs, sitting back down. Halford, now he was a Leatherman, and that became what metal was, says Davis. They were pushing the limits, I guess, and I like that. I'm trying to do some of that myself, but I'm not going over the top. More just skating along. Look at this one, and Davis jumps back up to the wardrobe case, where he procures a most heinous studded white leather getup. White, he snickers, metal. If Korn was a metal band, it was a new species indeed, one whose origins stubbornly remain mysterious. There's nothing in rock's fossil record to anticipate Korn's sudden appearance in 1992. The closest thing to a transitional species is Rage Against the Machine, which is somehow insufficient given that Davis doesn't rap and Rage doesn't do 7-string heaviness. Each member of Korn acknowledges listening to the rap metal pioneers, and each attests to their greatness. But as a straight-up influence, no. Nine Inch Nails has been mentioned too, but the band sharply denies any musical influence even while praising Reznor's work and puzzling over his publicly espoused hatred of Limp Bizkit. Perhaps the first Prong record, 1987's grindcore defining Primitive Origins, hints at a few things Korn, as do early bits of Faith No More. But from their self-titled 1995 debut through 1998's Follow the Leader, Korn were fully their own beast, and people took notice. So how on earth did 5 guys from Bakersfield, California come up with the sound that changed the world? And just how did they earn the tag, the Metallica of the 90s? Once after hearing me rephrase that question about 50 ways in an interview, Fieldy broke down and divulged Korn's secret formula, a recipe remarkable in its simplicity. We listened to all these death metal bands and some of them had that really heavy dark groove, so we had to figure out how to make that shit really hip, really bouncing and hopping, and we figured just slow that shit down. Take out all the solos and make it hop. Maybe that's all there is to it. In any case, given Korn's subsequent place in rock's social strata, taking out all the solos was akin to committing blasphemy. That was the work of punk groups, not metal bands. No matter to Korn. Actually, Monkey admits, we grew up playing guitar solos and practicing them. It was like the whole buildup of the song was about that. The high point of the song wasn't the chorus, it was the guitar solo after the chorus. We just thought that was kind of egotistical. It's boring too, agrees Head. It just got dull. So we decided as a band to create something together where we all can step up to the podium and shine and do our thing. Just get more intense with the song, more melodic or whatever, adds Head. Or let the vocal do something, continues Monkey. Because the solo thing has been done and done over and over. How many times have you gone to sleep in a guitar passage? We just thought it was old hat. And you don't hear it much anymore, chuckles Head. There's no one doing solos nowadays. The really great players must be mad at bands like us now. Where are the really great players these days anyway? VH1, says Monkey flatly. On Where Are They Now? Musically, Issues represents a departure from the traditional Korn sound. Added to the mix are dark waves of mellotron and Australian didgeridoo, giving it an eerie psychedelic feel, which is accentuated by Davis's soaring harmonizations, coloring much of the record. From the bagpipe-based opener Dead to the first single Falling Away From Me to the 8-minute closing track Dirty, Davis's haunting and beautiful harmonies recall the vocal work of groups like the Byrds and latter period Beatles, an intentional nod to the experimental spirit of the lysergically altered 60s? Not exactly, says Davis. Vocally, I was inspired by the Electric Light Orchestra and the Carpenters and stuff like that, he explains. I was just trying to think fucking sick. My solution was to write about some sick-ass shit, but make it sound all happy like the Carpenters. On songs like Dead, that contrast is awesome. Musically, though, I can see why people would consider Issues to be psychedelic. It just takes you somewhere. Everybody's been comparing it to Pink Floyd and Genesis, that kind of vibe. I always joke that people are going to be taking mushrooms to it and getting fucked on acid. I listen to it at night with headphones and think, this is some trippy weird shit. And no one else is doing it, he continues. We've always had to be innovators just to keep our heads up and not get lost in all the shit. I wouldn't say it's hard for us, but it's frustrating. It's hard when you do something like we did and everybody just sort of bites off you. It's cool for a while, but then it makes even us seem kind of played out, even though we started the whole thing. Monkey seconds the thought. Someone in a band, I can't remember who, it doesn't matter, was telling me the other day, we want to be heavy, but everything we play sounds like you guys. Every song we write ends up sounding like Korn. Well, they're really going to be thrown by this record. The single is the only song on it that even has that classic Korn sound. Yeah, agrees Head, we just experimented a lot more. Adds Monkey, we knew when we wrote this album that we were going to have to do something really great because our last record was commercially successful. We knew there would be greater expectations, but we also knew that repeating ourselves wasn't the answer. We knew we had to move forward, push the boundaries, and create something very personal. For Davis, the album was more personal than any the group has made before. Months ago, after casually glancing through the singer's lyric book, bassist Fieldy proclaimed, "Man, you got issues," and thus was born the album's moniker. While track titles like Am I Going Crazy, Trash, and Make Me Bad suggest it's business as usual for the raucous SoCal quintet, looks can be deceiving. Issues is in fact a concept record in many ways, as harrowing as The Wall, tracing with pointed acumen Davis's maladjustment to fame and his problems with substance abuse. From the time we started Family Values until I got better, it was just anxiety and me going straight crazy, he says somberly. I went completely fucked up cuckoo, and I had to go to the doctor. I got on medicine, and I'm all good now, but the whole album is about what I was feeling and the thoughts I had. I was ready to kill myself. Kids don't know what I went through. As for the fans, well, they all drove me fucking insane, but if it wasn't for them, I'd be dead anyway. Kind of a catch-22. Truth be told, Davis's difficulties coping with the pressures of life in the public eye date back some years. In mid-1997, as the group neared the end of its 2-year tour for Life is Peachy, he confided, I honestly don't know why I'm stressing. I'm in an awesome band. I'm traveling the world, writing songs. I'm changing people's lives. Why am I hating it so bad? He admitted to a tranquilizer addiction and a proclivity for Jack and Coke that was to become near legendary in the following years. He also spoke of cleaning up. He had become a parent, and the last person Davis wanted to emulate was his own father, a country musician in the legendary Buck Owens' band who often left home on tour and was often drunk when he wasn't touring. So Davis took the plunge and got sober. One benefit of his newfound temperance became evident almost immediately. The writing and recording of Issues was downright speedy relative to the production time of Follow the Leader. Partial credit must go to producer Brendan O'Brien, whose strategy, which he employed previously with Pearl Jam, Rage Against the Machine, and Stone Temple Pilots, was to keep the production moving at all costs. During the making of Issues, if a song wasn't working out, the group would turn its attention to another unfinished idea and try to flesh it out. During Leader sessions, they would have merely called it a day and gone home. O'Brien's influence is credited by everyone in the band, but it's only part of the story. When we went into the studio, John had no lyrics, nothing, says Head. Sometimes he wrote the songs like an hour before he sang them, lyrics and melodies. Davis was even more ambitious about his role on Trash. The rest of us had to go to an awards show, says Head. By the time we got back to the studio, he'd written the song and sung the backups and everything. We were like, oh my God. What was his trick? I think he's just, Monkey pauses, sober. He's been that way for a year, says Head. Nothing, no cigarettes, no alcohol, no nothing. His mind is clear. There's nothing in the way now. Melody just flows out of him. A lot of it was Brendan, says Davis, referring to the pace at which Brendan O'Brien kept the group moving. And a lot of it was that I didn't have to sing songs 50 times over because I was so f***ed up. Whatever benefits Korn is experiencing as a result of Davis's sobriety, there is an ironic downside. Life for recovering addicts is no cakewalk. They often wake up to see the old monsters that drugs or alcohol put on hold, staring them right in the face. Sometimes they trade the spoon for the fork, as Mudhoney once put it, or they get bloated on religion instead. Sometimes they drop back into substance abuse, and sometimes they triumph and grow from the whole experience. As for Davis, he seems to be having a difficult time these days. However focused he was in the studio, he does not come across that way in the interview. He fidgets, looks away frequently, and occasionally trails off into a non sequitur. It's a state of compulsive agitation that, considering Davis's sobriety, brings to mind one of the group's recent hits, Freak on a Leash. Davis says something about the recording of issues being like a downfall, and that all there is to do now is crawl back up. He characterizes the past year as really fucked, then dismisses a query about the difficulty of sobering up with a simple, "I've had to be really strong," adding cryptically, "I know I'm gonna die." It's dangerous to infer too much from an hour-long interview, but it seems as though the troubled singer is dealing with more issues than ever. Certainly none of it has softened his lyrics. They remain as bluntly autobiographical as ever. Likewise, Davis's temperance hasn't dulled the band's attack. Issues isn't stunning for the severity of its rage as Korn's monumental debut album was, nor does it shock with the kind of towering studio-sculpted sonic constructs that typified Follow the Leader. Instead, Issues astounds with the weight of its songwriting. In place of the band's signature terse, choppy dynamic is unexpected fluidity. In place of jolting explosiveness are thoughtful arrangements, mature pacing, and really good songs, which is not to say Issues doesn't have moments of sheer brutality. Yeah, we changed it up a lot, but it's still Korn, Davis says. I feel like the Follow the Leader was the last chapter in that kind of music. You can only go so far, and every band has taken a bite out of it and diluted it and done everything we've done. So much that it's just ridiculous. We had to change up a little bit and remember what we are. But Davis had his own personal reasons for making a change. I could only scream so much, and on this one, I wasn't so pissed. I was hurt and scared and didn't know what was going to happen, if I was going to die or what. I do scream, but it's different. If you want to hear screaming, listen to the other ones. I just got to do some new shit. Fortunately for Davis, his bandmates feel the same way. To that end, Korn recently showcased the album by performing it live top to bottom with a full orchestra and choir the evening before its official release date. And the venue, New York City's famed Apollo Theater, the legendary 85-year-old structure that's played host to some of America's most famous black performers, including Bessie Smith, Charlie Parker, Duke Ellington, and Thelonious Monk. A concept album performed in its entirety with full orchestra smacks distinctly of 70s prog rock excessiveness. Anyone care to remember Emerson, Lake and Palmer's doomed 1977 tour with a full orchestra? But Korn has never balked at daunting prospects. Starting their own label, Elementary, 2 years ago garnered them a few smirks in the industry, but when the first signed act, Orgy, went platinum, cynics were dumbfounded. Similarly, the Family Values Tour, Korn's ambitious version of Lollapalooza, has seen a 30% increase in ticket sales from its first year to this, according to Polestar magazine. And the task of getting their first 2 albums to go platinum with virtually no help from radio or MTV may have seemed daunting too, but they did it with relentless touring and consistently good live shows. All things considered, these 5 guys from Bakersfield have accomplished a hell of a lot. You have to wonder, what do they want that they don't already have? Monkey's quick to answer. Just appreciation from other musicians, he says. Yesterday in Chicago, a friend of Jonathan's told me, I never really liked any of your music, but Jonathan played your new album and I really like it. No way, that skinny guy, asks Ed. Yeah, and we're not the type of band that he likes, you know. He said, and I'd tell you too, I heard it from the beginning to end and it really blew me away. He's honest, so it's cool. And you know, he continues, one thing that I really like about this album is that there are no guest appearances and no hip-hop. It's just a good rock record. It's just Korn. So what exactly is Korn these days? Well, we kind of just go for a really dark, I don't know, what would you say, Head? Ass-kicking metal, he laughs. Yes, dude, says Monkey, looking back at me with a big grin. Ass-kicking metal. So there you have it, the epic tale of Korn's Issues record,